All right. I'd like to welcome Jaime Clampitt, the Hurricane, to the final bell. How are you?
Good, really good. Thank you.
Good, good. You know, Jaime, if you turn it sideways, I think I'll have a full. There
Better?
we go. That's perfect.
All right.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right. So you're fighting on June 15th at Mohegan Sun Arena. How's training going for Kandi Wyatt?
It's going really good. We kind of in the beginning of training camp, obviously we didn't have her as an opponent, so we didn't really know what we were training for, but just working hard and getting back into it. And then the last like 6 to 7 weeks, we've really just been focusing on her style and what we need to do to get the win on the 15th.
Yeah, nice. So how long has your training camp been? Has this been a longer training camp?
This one has been just because I had a little bit of a break and, I had
Right.
some things going on. And with my business, we had a big flood in December. So I actually didn't have
Oh,
a gym
really?
for a little bit, but, so I really didn't train for like the month of December into January,
Yeah.
which isn't like me at all. So that was kind of just coming back from that, was a little bit tougher, but so we extended it a little bit, and
Yeah.
just to give me a little extra time.
Gotcha. Yeah, because it's been 10 months, right, since your last fight, by the time
Yeah,
you fight.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, One question I had for you is, I spoke to Steve Mays, your coach, and he was mentioning, this might be your last fight. Is that something that is that official? Like, do you feel like this is it? This is your last fight or
Yeah, I
no?
think so. I mean, there's always like unless you get that call for that big one,
Right,
which, when I came out of retirement, that was kind of the plan is to go for a big
right,
fight or a title fight. And just sometimes things like that just don't work out. But I feel that, what I have done since I came out of retirement is, pretty good, and I'm super happy with it. And I'm glad that I've done what I've done. But, at the end of the day, I'm going to be 48 in July, and, your body kind of starts telling you
yeah.
what it wants to do. So, yeah, I think this might be it.
Well, it's been really inspirational, I'm sure, for a lot of people in your space. I know in your business and in your gym, but also to other people within CES, right? Like everyone speaks very highly of you whenever your name comes up. If this is your last fight, like, what's it like going through training camp? In your mind, like for the last time, does it feel that way, or how does it feel as far as sort of saying like, well, this is the last time I'm going to do this or that? How does that feel?
So I think in the beginning of training camp, it really never hit me that much. But the last like 2 weeks, I would say it's been kind of hit me a little bit harder. Just, I've been doing this since I was 15. Obviously, I've had
Right,
breaks in my life when I had my children and I took, 8 years off, whatever. But it's just something I've always done and something I've had passion for from the beginning. So it's I think it's hitting me a little hard sometimes when I really sit and think about
yeah.
it.
Yeah. And I know, to be clear, like the passion is still there, right? It's more that you're looking for either the right opportunity to come up, or you kind of like, well, you don't want boxing to retire you. You want to retire from boxing.
Yes, absolutely. And it's, like I said before, it's unfortunate, but every athlete, has to come to an end with their career and has to say goodbye at some point because it's either just not working for them or their body's breaking down or, whatever it might be. And I think I want to leave the sport with the love that I have, and I don't want to seem
Yeah.
too long where I really start to not love the sport. I kind of want to look back and have good memories of everything I've been doing.
Yeah, for sure. And the good thing about you, unlike other fighters, is that you have a whole other career, right? Do you think you'll do anything differently, or are you going to focus yourself on training others and maybe doing other physical things? I'm sure, but not obviously not fighting. What do you think you're going to be dedicating your time to? Is it more your business and the gym, or do you have other plans?
I mean, I think right now, like, obviously I have a lot to think about in the next 2 weeks, but
Sure,
just
sure,
focus on
sure.
that first. But I think after, I just really want to dive back into the business because the last couple of years, it hasn't been 100% for me because I've been focusing on my boxing career, obviously. But
Right,
I'm always an athlete. I was in between, my last retirement and these fights. I was doing bodybuilding, and I'd like to
right.
revisit that again. I really enjoyed that. And who knows? I mean, maybe I'll find something new, but I think I always need a challenge and a goal, and I think that's just kind of the person that I am. So I'm sure it'll be something. There'll be something for me there.
Right. So cutting weight is still going to be part of your life, huh? If you're going to be
Probably.
bodybuilding.
I know, I never stop.
Yeah.
It actually, for me, it's actually gotten easier as I've gotten older for some reason. So it's
I guess
okay.
yeah, it's what you know, right? It's like you
Yeah.
just learn so much more, right, over the years scientifically,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Awesome. All right, now, but you're not retired and you're fighting
Nope.
Kandi Wyatt.
Yep.
So what do you know about her?
I've seen her fight some great champions. And she's
Mhm.
very tough. She's a lot bigger than me. My
Right.
last few fights have been like closer to 130. And she'll probably come in a little over 135. So, I did earlier in my career, I fought as high as 140, but I haven't fought in that weight class for a long time. So yeah, we're just, it's kind of funny. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I looked her up when Jimmy initially presented her to me. She's actually from the gym that I trained at when I lived in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So it's
Oh, wow.
interesting. Yeah, so it's kind of cool. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm training my hardest. I know it's going to be a really, really tough fight. Like, like I said, she's been in there with some great champions, and I'm not taking her lightly. Um, I know I just got to give it 100%. That's what I've been doing the
Yeah.
entire camp, and I have to do that in the fight as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree. Just looking at her resume, I see fights with Natasha Jonas, Jessica McCaskill. That was for the undisputed welterweight title. Callie Reese, Christina Lidenartu. So some really tough names. And despite her having, I guess, less than 20 fights, she still has a lot of experience, and she's naturally the bigger fighter.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to be the key difference between you guys? Is there something that you see that that is going to be some? I don't want you to give away a game plan, but what do you think is going to be some of the key sort of keys to the fight for you?
I mean, a lot of people look at my age as a downfall, but I actually look at it as something that is going to help me in this fight because I do have that experience, and I've been in there with a lot of great champions myself. So,
Yeah,
I think definitely that will be, just bringing my experience into the ring. I'm fast still for my age, and I feel like I've got a lot of speed. And I'm just this is it. So it's like
yeah,
I gotta get
yeah,
in there and give it 100%. She's a young fighter and she's still got time, but I don't. So I think my mindset is a little bit different. Obviously I'm, like I said, I'm taking it seriously. I'm excited, I'm nervous, but I'm just ready to go in there and give it everything I got.
yeah, definitely. And that is actually what stands out to me is like I mentioned those names that she's been in the ring with, but those are all in losing efforts. Whereas you're a four-time world champion, two divisions, you've beaten people like Jane Couch and Mia St.
Mhm.
John and many others. So you still have that experience edge, and you've won the big fights, right? Now, if you win impressively, is there a chance that maybe we could coerce you into into another fight?
I don't think so. I've thought about that
Uh,
too. And I think just, at this stage of my life, I have two children, and,
yeah,
both my kids are very involved in their activities. And I think it's, the focus needs to be on letting them kind of live out their dreams now. So I
right,
feel very satisfied with what I've done. I know it's hard to say goodbye, but like I said before, I want to leave the sport with love. And, I
yeah,
think, whatever happens, that's what I need to do right now.
yeah, definitely. If any of your kids wanted to box, would you support that and maybe train them, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, they both, are in the gym, at times. My son plays a lot of soccer. But
Yeah,
he'll go in just for, um, some different training, and my daughter does it right now just for some, exercise. But I don't think they want to, but if they wanted to, obviously I would support them. I don't know if I'd want to coach them. I think I'd have to find somebody who would, work for them, because I think that's, I don't know, my opinion,
yeah, that's
that's not
probably too
always the
much. Yeah.
best. Yeah.
Right,
But
right,
definitely support them or whatever they want to do.
right. Give them advice and all that as well. Um, so just looking at your resume again, four-time world champion, two division, Hall of Famer already. Um, as you're preparing to maybe move on from the sport, like, do you feel as though, like the British people say, like they've completed boxing, or is there anything that you feel like you've missed during your career?
I don't think I've missed anything. I feel, like I said, it would have been nice to go for a title again.
Yeah,
But I have no regrets, honestly. Like, this is what I chose to do. I love what I do. I love going through training camp. Like, I'm a happier person, when I'm in training
when you
camp.
do
Like,
it.
this is what I love. So I really don't have any regrets. I think, I just, as a fighter, I always worked really hard, and I you know always had a big heart and gave it as much as I could in the ring. And I think that's just how I kind of want to be remembered in the sport.
And you're a pioneer, right? Especially like looking at CES and women's boxing and how it's evolved. And you and I talked about this before. You were headlining shows. You were on TV way before way before the sport became popular for women. I wish that you would have come up in this time, right, where you can really get to experience sort of the fruits of your labor, right? But you came back, and I think people really appreciate it, and they're lucky to be able to see you while you're still in action. I think. It's
Oh,
not every
thank
day that,
you.
right, that you get to see a Hall of Famer in action, giving it her all. And it's funny that you're going to be fighting a Canadian for sure. That was one of the things I was
I
like,
know.
wow, it's coming full circle.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely
um,
is. Yeah, and I think it's cool that, that's the way it's gonna end too. Because like I said, when
yeah,
I lived in Calgary, that's really where my career started taking off. And I became a national champion. I turned pro in Calgary. Like, that's kind of where things really started happening for me. So it's cool, and it's kind of like a storybook ending for me, I think.
for sure. Yeah, yeah. We just need to get a big win, and that's it.
Yeah.
Um, along the lines you mentioned, and I do think, I asked you that question, but to me, it was a little bit of a leading question. I feel like you have completed boxing, right? The fact that you've won so many titles, I would be very proud of myself if I were to accomplish what you have. Are there any opponents though that you feel like, oh, I really wanted to fight this one opponent? Do you have any of those?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think, like, now I would love to, like, fight the, other 135 or 130 pound, top two or top three, top, four women. Obviously, there's
Yeah,
Katie Taylor. I had the opportunity to spar with her at one point,
yeah,
and Alicia Baumgartner, just to see where
hmm
I'm at more than anything, like, just to measure where I'm at this point in my life and my career. I would have loved to have done that. But again, I think, my husband is a boxer, was a boxer, and
yeah,
this is pretty much all we talk about in our house. But we
yeah,
we always like, oh, if you could just spar Katie Taylor once, like, that would be such a cool thing in your career. When I got the opportunity, I'm like, wow, like, this is for
yeah,
me, looking at her, like, I'm such a fan of her. So I feel like even just having that experience, it's not all about the fights, it's a lot of it's the
yeah.
training camp and the people you meet, and all the experiences that you have throughout your entire career. And I think that was just a really good experience that I got to have.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And you were preparing her for, was it one of the Chantel Cameron fights?
Yeah, so I don't think she knew she was fighting Chantel at that point. It was like right before, and then I think it came out
Okay.
shortly after we sparred. But yeah, she's just such an amazing champion and person, and she just does so much for the sport of women's
Yeah.
boxing. So it was just, I was very grateful to be in there for her, with her.
Yeah, she's definitely one of the two or three global sort of celebrities when it comes to boxing, right? It's like her, Canelo Alvarez, Anthony Joshua that you can think of as like truly global stars in boxing.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of her, she's fighting Amanda Serrano. It's going to be on Netflix, and it's probably going to be viewed by millions of people, given that it's on the undercard of Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, if that fight happens, obviously.
Yeah.
We're not sure now with Mike Tyson having some health issues. How do you see that fight going? You have an early prediction on that?
I just think Katie is just unbelievable, her speed, and she's been in, she had a tough round with Serrano before, and she came back, and even her fight with Cameron, the first one she lost, but moving up in that weight class, was tough for her, but she still stayed in there. I don't know. I'm just a Katie Taylor fan, so I think she's gonna get it again.
Yeah, yeah. It's basically going to be activity versus power, right? In
Yeah.
that setup, just like the first time around. And I feel like those two will always be in a good fight, no matter what. They just
Oh,
tend to click
absolutely. Yeah,
really well.
Serrano's unbelievable. I just think
Yeah,
Katie's speed is gonna just take over again, you know.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I went to that fight, and it was very emotional. It was unbelievable, being there and watching these
yeah.
women. And they sold that place out, and they deserved
It's
everything.
amazing.
Yep.
And it's not every day that a fight lives up to its hype, and that one really did. I mean, I feel like
Yeah.
it was action packed from beginning to end. Um, you and I talked about this, but not on the record like this. When it comes to women's boxing and potentially, the difference between a 2 minute round and a 3 minute round, what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you have a preference? How do you think it impacts the sport?
I mean, obviously, if you're going to 3-minute rounds, there's going to be more knockouts. I like the 2 minutes because I love the excitement. And every time
Yeah,
either I fight or I go, to a fight and I see women's boxing, you hear, the crowd, they get so excited because it's so quick and there's so much action. And I kind of like that we're a little bit different from men's boxing
yeah,
because of that. Um, I understand why some women want to do 3-minute rounds, and that's fine. And it's kind of cool now that they've been giving people a little bit of an option. But for me,
right.
well, this is 2 minutes for me on on the 15th. So I'm gonna start there and
Yeah,
finish there.
right. But you probably train for like, do you train for 3 minute rounds usually, or are you trying to do the same pace when you're training?
No, we always do what I'm fighting. So everything we do
Yeah,
is, we just
yeah,
try and keep it exactly the same throughout the camp.
right,
Yeah.
right, right. I agree with you. I feel like what I like about women's boxing, I think the 2 minute rounds make it much more exciting. It just flows so quickly, and you're like, oh man, it's already like round six or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but I'm with you. Like for Amanda, it's really important to fight 3 minute rounds, and then do it. Like go for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And I think, some women do, they do great with the 3-minute rounds. Like you can see just with their style and whatever. And I think Amanda, does great with that. I like watching her fight 2-minute rounds though, because I think she's such an exciting fighter, and she's not
yeah,
pacing herself as much, but I totally understand her reasoning behind the threes.
yeah. Same here. I guess it does allow you to set things up more, which she likes to do, right? Set up the knockout.
Yeah.
Now, thinking about sort of the future, who do you see? And I know you've sparred with other women, like you just mentioned, Katie Taylor, but also women within CES. Who do you see as picking up your mantle from the CS boxing side? I know we
Um,
have Melanie Costa, we have
yeah.
Jamie, yeah, Jamie Coleman,
Oh, Stevie Jane. Yeah.
Stevie Jane.
So
I'm sorry, Stevie Jane Coleman.
yeah, I've sparred with both girls. They're both incredible,
Yeah,
very, very different fighters. Melanie is absolutely exciting to watch. She's in there, you know, she just goes for it. She's been like, I've known her since she was like a little kid. So she, you know, watching
Yeah.
her throughout the years has been amazing. And, you know, she's just such a she's so good for the sport because she's very well spoken. You know, she's a police officer. She carries herself very well. I have to stay though with Stevie. Um, when I've been watching her in the Boston Butchers,
Yeah.
her technique and just her, I don't know, something changed in her and she just looks so smart in there. Her technique is unbelievable. Like I was just so impressed watching her. You know, she set everything up right. Like she was really, really focused and I could tell there was definitely a shift. But you know, she's a young girl. I'm not sure
Yeah.
how old she is, but
She's
I
up
want to
and
say
coming.
maybe like mid-20s maybe. Um
Yeah.
so just to have that maturity in the ring really, really impressed me. You know, her last
Yeah.
couple fights in the Butchers.
Yeah, and it's good to see that there is, you know, there's a new generation coming up from the region that's gonna be representing, right? And hopefully competing for titles in the future.
Yeah.
And then there's Amelia Moore, right? On the Butchers, I think she's still
Yeah.
undefeated there. She's been
Yeah,
winning every
she's
round that she's
incredible.
in.
I don't know her at all, actually. I just the only you know, I just saw her when she got on the Butchers. But she's
Yeah,
incredible. You can tell she has that really good amateur background. And
yeah,
you know, she seems like she's just kind of like she just dove in and is handling it so well. So I'm excited to see
absolutely.
what's in her future.
Yeah. Um, the team concept seems to really be taking off, right? Like yesterday, I watched boxing for too many hours. The five
Mhm.
versus five card out of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
You got the Boston Butchers now. What are your thoughts on it? Like, given that you've been to one of these live, what are your thoughts on this team concept league?
You know, I think it's cool. The first one I watched, I actually haven't been to one live yet. I hope to go to the last one.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
Same here, actually.
I've been watching all of them. The first one I watched, it wasn't the Butchers. I can't remember who it was, but I was like, I don't know. And then seeing the Boston Butchers and just, you know, obviously Jimmy Birchfield is, you know, in my eyes, the best promoter. And the way that they did it and it was so classy and the ring announcing and you know just everything was just done really, really well. And then you get to see all these people that you know in the ring. And it was just like I was hooked. After that, I was hooked. And then I
Pretty
started
cool. Yeah.
watching. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't, like, I haven't been able to go yet, but I really hope to go to the last one because it's amazing to see them. And it's hard, you know, especially for some of these people that have been fighting like 8 and 10 rounds and they have to do everything in 3 minutes. Um, it's just, you know, making that switch. I can't imagine,
Yeah.
you know, how hard that must be for them, but they're all doing amazing.
Yeah, it's back to what we were talking about. The pacing is super different. You have to win your round. You don't have a lot of time to set things up or get to know your opponent. You kind of have to go in there and make your point. So it's not going to work for everyone, but I agree with you. Like at first when I heard of it, I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. And then having seen some of it on YouTube, it sounds like it's amazing to be able to see all these fighters. And a lot of them are like well known, like Rashidi Ellis is in it.
Yeah.
There's many others, Alejandro Paulino, there's some
Hmm.
well-known fighters and it's cool to see them, right? You get to see all of these fighters in one night and it's so quick, right? So it's entertaining.
Yeah, I've been loving it. And some of the boxers that have come out of retirement, you know, with not just
Yeah.
our team or the Boston Butchers, but with all the teams, you know, Layla McCarter, who is always a big fan of hers, you know, watching her. And there's a few other women that I've seen like, oh, I remember her and
Yeah.
men too. And just yeah, it's a super fun concept. I hope it keeps taking off and you know, I'm hooked and I'm definitely a fan.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds good. So that last fight you're talking about, is that against New York on June 26th, I think, in
Is
Boston or
it?
no?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. I said the
Yeah.
25th or the
Okay.
26th, but yeah, I just, you know, I really want to go. Shelly Vincent's a good friend of mine and I haven't
Yeah.
seen
Yeah.
her
She's in
fight.
there.
And
Yeah.
she's another one, like watching her. In the beginning, I was training with her a little bit. We were doing the 3 minute rounds. And then, you know, I got the call for this fight. So I, you know, stepped back and just kind of worked on my own training camp. But watching her just, she hadn't fought in many years and then get back in there. And she's always such an exciting fighter. And I was happy to see her back in the ring.
Yeah, definitely. And were you approached for the Boston Butchers? Or did you consider it at all or no?
Kind of, it just, for me, just with my kids and stuff, it's just not something that I
Yeah,
feel
it's
like
a big
I couldn't
commitment.
handle with my life. And then, I really would just wanted to focus on this fight and kind of get, past this and focus my 100% on the 15th.
Yeah, definitely. Um, One of the things I was thinking about when it comes to you is, would you be interested in like things like commentating? Is that something that would be appealing to you?
Oh, I would love that because I love to talk. So
Yeah.
and I love to talk about
And
boxing.
you
So
and you watch a lot of boxing, right? Like you are a fan
yeah.
as well, right?
Every day I
Yeah,
watch
yeah. So it's a
something,
natural.
yeah, they're old fights or new. Yeah, I'm always, yeah. So
Yeah,
definitely that would be something that I would love to do.
definitely. I could definitely see you doing that. In fact, what I was thinking is, we talked about this in the past, and maybe before the Katie Taylor Amanda Serrano fight, it'd be great for you to join us, and we can break down that fight and kind of preview it, basically. You see my dog in the background
Yeah.
there. Yeah, he's my co-host today. So yeah, I think that would be great if you're up for something like that. We'll see when it gets rescheduled for, and it would be great to have you and get your thoughts on women's boxing and just sort of what's going on, not just women's boxing, but in general.
Yeah, no, I would love that. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, look, it's been an honor to cover you, and we're going to continue speaking. I will be there on June 15th at Mohegan Sun Arena. I encourage everyone to come and watch a Hall of Famer, a legendary fighter from the Northeast in her last fight. And we're all going to be rooting for you to have a last big, impressive win, and then we can celebrate.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you, Jamie.